Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the United States Naval Academy's Alumni Hall and the 21st Distinguished Graduate Award Medal Ceremony. I am Midshipman Isaac Phillips, President of the Class of 2019. This afternoon, we are recognizing 5 graduates of the Naval Academy who will receive the 2019 Distinguished Graduate Award Medal from the United States Naval Academy Alumni Association. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party, followed by the introduction of this year's Distinguished Graduate Award recipients. Please remain standing for the National Anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, the 62nd Superintendent of the United States Naval Academy, Vice Admiral Walter E. Ted Carter, Jr., United States Navy, Class of 1981. Admiral Jonathan Greener, United States Navy, retired, Class of 1975, Distinguished Graduate Award Selection Panel Chairman. Dr. J. Phillip London, Class of 1959. Admiral Robert J. Natter, United States Navy, retired, Class of 1967. Colonel Walter P. Havenstein, United States Marine Corps Reserve, retired, Class of 1971. Admiral Robert F. Willard, United States Navy, retired, Class of 1973. Captain Wendy B. Lawrence, United States Navy, retired, Class of 1981. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. March on the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem. March off the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Today we are honored to have with us several previous recipients of the Alumni Association's Distinguished Graduate Award, along with many of their spouses. With us today are Captain Jack Crawford, class of 1942, Admiral and Mrs. Bob Foley, class of 1950, Vice Admiral and Mrs. Bob Dunn, class of 1951, Rear Admiral and Mrs. Bob Shoemaker, class of 1956, the Honorable Daniel Cooper, class of 1957, Admiral and Mrs. Hank Moss, class of 1959, Rear Admiral and Mrs. Bill Miller, class of 1962, the Honorable and Mrs. John Dalton, class of 1964, Admiral and Mrs. Steve Abbott, class of 1966, General and Mrs. Carl Fulford, class of 1966, the Honorable and Mrs. Scott Redd, class of 1966, Vice Admiral John Ryan, class of 1967, Major General and Mrs. Charlie Bolden, class of 1968, Mr. Dan Akerson, class of 1970, Vice Admiral and Mrs. Cutler Dawson, class of 1970. Naval Academy Command Chaplain, Captain Francis Foley, United States Navy.
As we begin this ceremony in celebration of the actions and deeds of those remarkable distinguished graduates, we take a few moments to remember the recipient we lost this past year. We remember those who have served. We honor those who have sacrificed. We pray for those who have gone before us. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite all who wish to now join me in prayer. Eternal Father, we thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us, and particularly for the blessing of those who guide us on our way, for the women and men of honor, courage, and character who have given themselves in the service of our nation and have sacrificed much for the cause of freedom and peace around the world. Tonight we honor 5 individuals who embody the values and the enduring virtues of the Naval Academy, and model the devotion and sense of duty to which we are all called. They have forged lives that inspire and enrich neighbor and nation. Bless them for having set an example for all of us to follow. May we too live lives of service, inspiring and enriching those who pass our way. And may you be honored by all we do and by all we say. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
This is the United States Naval Academy and United States Naval Academy Alumni Association's 21st Distinguished Graduate Award Medal Ceremony. Since the award's inception, and including this year, 91 graduates have received this honor. The Distinguished Graduate Award is presented to living graduates of the United States Naval Academy, whose character and distinguished service draw wholesome comparisons to the Naval Academy's core values of honor, courage, and commitment. These graduates have provided a lifetime of service to our nation and our naval service, and have demonstrated unwavering support for the Naval Academy. This year, the Naval Academy Alumni Association has chosen to honor 5 individuals with the award. Ladies and gentlemen, Vice Admiral Ted Carter.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the United States Naval Academy. I want to give a special warm welcome to our distinguished graduates of the past. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, family, faculty, staff, coaches, class members of our distinguished graduates, and maybe most importantly, the Brigade of Midshipmen, and of course, our 2019 selectees from the Alumni Association of the prestigious Distinguished Graduate Award. Welcome to each and every one of you. It is with, yes, please, go ahead. It is with great humility and pleasure that I get to not just welcome you, but just say a couple words about why this ceremony is so special to us here at the Naval Academy. This ceremony was started in 1999. So we are in our 20th year, our 21st class of distinguished graduates. And as you heard our MC say, there have been only 91 selectees, starting with our first selectee in 1999, Admiral Thomas Moore, class of 1933, a naval aviator, a chief of naval operations, a chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and since then, 90 have been selected. Now, let me just put that in context for all of us. Obviously, you have to be living to receive this award, but looking back to the class of 1933 to the present, we're talking about roughly 70,000 graduates of the Naval Academy with 91 selectees, a little bit less than 0.2% to find your way to this stage. It is a remarkable achievement. And for the Brigade of Midshipmen, we do this ceremony in front of you. As you know, we do not bring the brigade together that many times of the year. We know how busy your life is, all of the things we ask you to do, but there's a very important reason why we do this in front of you. As you listen to the stories of these distinguished graduates, whose graduating years cover an entire generation of Naval Academy graduates, you'll find that they cover every different path of life. They've achieved the highest levels of responsibility in command, citizenship, and government. They've served their Navy, their Marine Corps at the highest levels. But maybe more importantly, it's about their leadership qualities. It's about those that served with them and the trust that they built in whatever organization they led. From heads of industry, to flying at Top Gun, to leading fleets, to breaking glass ceilings and going into space. These leaders have achieved remarkable levels of success. For the Brigade of Midshipmen, I would ask as you listen to these stories today that you really do just one thing. Be inspired. Be inspired by what you hear. It's hard for some of you to imagine, but you will go on to lead at the highest levels of command citizenship in government. And there are midshipmen in the audience today who will be on this stage 40, 50, maybe even 60 years from now, and your job will be come up here and inspire those midshipmen of the future. And what I ask you to do as you listen to these stories is really just three things as you get ready for the class of 2019 to be commissioned. Always do your best. Never give up, no matter what the odds, and never betray what you know to be right in your journey of character development here at the United States Naval Academy. On behalf of everybody at the United States Naval Academy, to our distinguished graduate class of 2019, let me be the first. Dr. Jack London, class of 1959. Admiral Bob Natter, class of 1967. Colonel Walt Havenstein, class of 1971. Admiral Bob Willard, class of 1973. And Captain Wendy Lawrence, class of 1981. Let me be the first to say, welcome home. And welcome back to your United States Naval Academy. Thank you all very, very much.
We are pleased to showcase the lives and achievements of each of our distinguished graduates with a biographical video prepared in their honor. Presenting the Distinguished Graduate Award Medal to each of our awardees is Midshipman Lauren O'Malley, Brigade Commander. Accompanying her are Vice Admiral Carter and Admiral Greenert. From the class of 1959, Dr. J. Phillip London.
J. Phillip Jack London was born to Harry and Evelyn London in Oklahoma City. His mother called the family, including his brother Gary, the descendants of colonial pioneers and prairie farmers. Jack developed a strong work ethic and entrepreneurial spirit as an honor student, football player, and through after-school jobs. With strong family military influences, Jack headed to Annapolis, part of the class of 1959. At the Academy, Jack served as 15th Company Commander and on the Class Crest Committee, playing intramural football, and was an artist for the log. The Lucky Bag noted that Jack put forth the maximum effort both in studies and in being squared away, and is sure to do a fine job in the Navy. The experience changed his life forever. After graduation, Jack trained in Pensacola as a naval aviator. As an anti-submarine warfare helicopter pilot, he deployed throughout the North Atlantic, Mediterranean, and Caribbean. Jack flew surveillance missions against the Soviet nuclear submarine threat, including the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was with the recovery team aboard the USS Randolph in the Caribbean for John Glenn's Freedom 7 spaceflight. He earned a master's degree at the Naval Postgraduate School before returning to the Academy as faculty. Jack's final assignment was aide to Admiral Jack Arnold at the Naval Materiel Command. After leaving active duty in 1971, Jack earned a doctorate in business administration from George Washington University. Joining the Navy Reserve as an aeronautical engineering officer, he commanded the reserve unit in the Naval Air Systems Command. He retired at the rank of captain in 1983. Jack then joined a small consulting firm called CACI. Building the business, he quickly advanced, serving as president and CEO between 1984 and 2007. Chairman of the board since 1990, Jack currently serves as executive chairman, overseeing major strategic and financial transactions. Jack and CACI's leadership team are proud to be a trusted government partner providing advanced technology solutions for national security missions. He started their highly successful acquisitions program in 1992, buying 70 companies. His strategic vision still guides the company's evolution into network technology, intelligence, cyber, and electronic warfare domains. In 2008, Jack co-founded CACI's Asymmetric Threat Symposium series. Under Jack's leadership, CACI is now a $5 billion global enterprise with over 21,000 professionals in 130 locations. 38% of employees are veterans or reservists. 9% are disabled veterans. CACI is ranked number 574 on the Fortune 1000, is a Fortune Most Admired Company, and rated a top workplace in many U.S. cities. Jack is author of Character, the Ultimate Success Factor, on how good character enables individual and organizational success. He has spoken on the subject to some 10,000 people. The HR Leadership Awards of Greater Washington established its Ethics Award in Jack's name. In 2014, he was named by the Ethisphere Institute as one of the most influential people in business ethics. Jack has been inducted into Halls of Fame for the Naval Postgraduate School, Greater Washington Government Contractor Awards, and Washington Business Awards. Among his recognitions are the Navy League's Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz Award, the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation's Semper Fidelis Award, the Naval Order's Admiral of the Navy George Dewey Award, and the Navy League's Meritorious Citation. Jack supports naval education, history, and heritage programs. At the Naval Academy, he created 3 ongoing award programs in leadership, history, and cybersecurity. Since 2014, he has sponsored a Midshipman Summer Cybersecurity Internship Program at CACI. Jack serves on the boards of the Navy Memorial Foundation, Naval Historical Foundation, Navy League, Friends of the National World War II Memorial, and previously the U.S. Naval Institute. Today, Jack lives in Northern Virginia with his wife, Dr. Jennifer London, and their 3 young sons. London's 2 adult children and 6 grandchildren also live in the area. J. Phillip Jack London, an outstanding example of leadership, character, and patriotism, and whose commitment to the Navy, the Naval Academy, and the nation is enduring and ever vigilant.
They got me live mic, don't they? See how quick I pick this stuff up. How many times can you say thank you? Well, good afternoon, shipmates and guests. It's truly an honor to be here and selected for the Distinguished Graduate Award. I'm most humbled, appreciative, and thankful. It's a recognition of a lifetime, and one that I will always cherish. And I thank all who made it happen. And a most hearty congratulations to all my fellow recipients. Congratulations. But I want to start by speaking directly to the midshipmen. I'm going to speak to you out there. I want to speak to you out there. I wanted you to think about a number. The number 21,843. I want you to think about a number. 21,843. So I was sworn in as a midshipman in June of 1955. The Academy instilled many good values over those 4 years, and I graduated on June 3rd, 1959. So as I stand here today, it has been exactly, you guessed it, 21,843 days since my graduation. That's a pile of days, isn't it? And whether you believe it or not, I can remember every one of them. That's nearly 60 years ago. Since I was in your shoes, strolling through the yard and thinking about what my future might be. I could hardly imagine all that I would experience or try to accomplish during that length of time, but it really turns out you can do a lot in 21,843 days. You better. The Academy provides many wonderful career opportunities to serve our great country with honor, courage, and commitment. At the same time, you have career options that didn't exist for me 60 years ago, some of them not even 10 years ago. In 1955, for example, we were just learning about computers. A Navy Reserve officer named Grace Hopper was pioneering software programming languages. In 1968, I had the good fortune and luck to sit through one of her seminars on software programming. Today, Hopper Hall is being built to house the computer science and the cybersecurity departments of the United States Naval Academy. And that's one of the things that always amazes me about the Academy. It's where history and learning meet up with adventure and innovation. So what can you accomplish in the next 21,843 days? Think about it. Of course, you can't know what's going to be out there in front of you. Don't know what to. In fact, your future will be full of the unexpected and the unknown. Your options will evolve faster than mine, for sure. So going forward, I want you to stay curious, be ambitious, and open to all new opportunities. And always remember your duty. The Brigade of Midshipmen are role models in academics, achievement, and comportment. You attend one of the few institutions in the world created for protecting America's freedom and supporting liberty around the world. That's a duty and an honor. Since 1845, many noble Americans and naval officers and naval leaders have walked these grounds. Names like George Dewey, Alfred Mahan, Chester Nimitz, Raymond Spruance, Bull Halsey, and my good friend, as was mentioned by Admiral Carter, Admiral Thomas Moore. Tom was the first DGA recipient, as was mentioned, in 1999. And I was here on that day 20 years ago, out on Warden Field for my good friend, Tom Moore. So we honor all those great leaders who came before us. Make them proud by being an example of good character in all that you do. Never let them down. Never let them down. And at this point, I'd shift gears a little bit. I want to extend my thanks and appreciation. First, I thank the United States Naval Academy for everything it has done for me over these years. This is truly a special place, and I hope you realize that. It changed my life and gave me a new world. My humble thanks go out to the DGA committee, members led by former CNO, Admiral Jonathan Greenert, and the Alumni Association chairman, Admiral Sam Locklear. And my thanks to the superintendent, Vice Admiral Carter, and to Foundation President Byron Marchant. All this happened, of course, because of my good friend, Rear Admiral Bob Shoemaker, believed in me and championed my nomination. Bob is a class of 1956, a former Vietnam POW, and a GGA recipient of 2011. He and my wonderful wife, Dr. Jennifer London, worked tirelessly on my nomination, and I thank them both for their efforts and their faith in me. I also thank Roger Staubach, the Secretary of Defense William Cohen, and Admiral Steve Abbott, DGA recipient of 2014, and my other shipmates who endorsed my nomination. To all my family, my wife, Jennifer, and her unwavering support and devotion, and our three young sons that you saw the pictures, my son Phillip, my daughter Laura, their spouses, and my wonderful grandchildren. To my brother Gary and his wife Liz, and especially to my 1,500 classmates, my shipmates and friends, thank you for being here with me today. I also want to thank two very special people who are no longer with me. My parents, who gave me unconditional support at the Naval Academy and throughout my life. The priceless gift from my mother was a copy of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy's famous book, Profiles in Courage. I recommend it to you. She got President Kennedy to sign it to me, to Lieutenant J. Phillip London in 1961, and I still carry the President's Profiles in Courage book with me. In 1963, President Kennedy spoke in Bancroft Hall, in front of Bancroft Hall. What he said that day is true today for everyone attending this remarkable institution. He said, and I quote, Anyone who may be asked in this century what they did to make their life worthwhile can say with a great deal of pride and satisfaction, I served in the United States Navy. Thank you.
From the class of 1967, Admiral Robert J. Natter.
Robert J. Bob Natter was born April 9, 1945, in Trussville, Alabama, the middle child of 7 brothers and 2 sisters. His parents, Bill and Alice Natter, instilled the values of service in all their children. To say it was a military family might be an understatement. All 7 boys served in uniform, and both sisters married servicemen. Bob got a taste of Navy life early on, enlisting in the Naval Reserve at 17 and attending Great Lakes Boot Camp while still in high school. Thriving in that environment, he wanted to serve as a naval officer and was accepted as a member of the Naval Academy class of 1967. At the Academy, Bob, known as Nats, excelled in intramural sports, including track, football, soccer, and field ball. The lucky bag noted that Bob's room was always a gathering spot during evening study hour and predicted that Nats will be in there with the best in whatever he decides to do. After graduation, Bob headed for Vietnam, where he saw continuous and dangerous duty and maritime operations in coastal waters and rivers. Overdue for a shore assignment, he remained on combat patrols in the lower Mekong Delta. It was there his boat came under fierce enemy shelling that killed or wounded all on board. Though seriously wounded himself, Bob took charge, guiding his damaged craft to safety through a hail of enemy fire. For his action, Lieutenant Natter was awarded a Silver Star Commendation. After earning a master's at the Naval Postgraduate School, Bob attended Destroyer School and served aboard USS Bradley, followed by assignments that allowed him to demonstrate his knowledge, leadership, and abilities. With these assignments, promotions quickly followed. After earning another master's degree, this time from the Naval War College, Captain Select Natter returned to Washington, continuing his naval service in the halls of power. He was a detailee to the House Armed Services Committee, investigated and corrected issues for the Chief of Naval Operations, and was the executive assistant to the Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs during Operation Desert Storm. Holding flag rank, Bob headed the Office of Legislative Affairs and served as Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Plans, Policy, and Operations, all the while gaining a reputation as a no-nonsense naval officer who could cut straight to the heart of the matter and get things done. Back at sea, Bob commanded the 7th Fleet and later the Atlantic Fleet and the newly established U.S. Fleet Forces Command. When USS Cole was attacked by terrorists, Bob personally inspected the damage and visited with wounded crew members and the families of those killed in the attack. On the morning of September 11, 2001, Bob found normal command avenues in disarray as America was attacked. Taking action, he ordered 2 Aegis cruisers up the Chesapeake Bay to protect Washington and ordered USS George Washington to protect the skies over New York. I don't know if I have the authority to do this, he told subordinates, but this is what we're going to do. When he retired from active duty in 2003, Admiral Natter had been honored with numerous awards, including 5 Navy Distinguished Service Medals, the Silver Star, Defense Superior Service Medal, 5 Legions of Merit, and a Purple Heart. His military success carried over to civilian life. Bob founded and currently leads R.J. Natter & Associates, a corporate and defense consulting firm. He serves and has served on the corporate boards of some of America's largest companies. Bob has never been far from his alma mater. He served for 6 years as chairman of the Naval Academy Alumni Association Board of Trustees and has generously supported Academy financial objectives in support of varsity athletics, leadership, and academics. Bob is married to Claudia Kane Natter, and they have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Looking back over a storied career, Bob's most meaningful accomplishments include his various military commands, but also the family he and Claudia raised, as he says, the next generation of great Americans. He also treasures his naval service relationships, classmates, and his company mates, the Mets, all of whom remain close friends to this day. Admiral Robert J. Nader, a mentor to those following in his footsteps, and whose contributions to the Navy and the Naval Academy have made the nation stronger.
Well, in the words of that great sportscaster Al Michaels, do you believe in miracles? Today I do. And I can assure you most of my classmates do too. And I know the 33rd Company Mets know that this is a miracle. From grilled cheese sandwich business to restricting most of second class year to distinguished graduate. You can't make this up. You know, I had to ask a number of good friends what they would recommend I say today. And they provided some great advice. I had one recent conversation with my wife Claudia and Captain Karen Vernazza. And I asked them, well, what do you think? And Captain Vernazza said, well, when you were a midshipman, what did you want to hear when you came to events like this? And I said, usually it's over and we're out of here. And I knew that would wake up that guy right up there. I know your pain. But seriously, before I leave and sit back down, I would like to say that I thank very much my classmates and other good friends who supported me for this really prestigious award. I need to specifically thank Ted Hantz, Mike Quinlan, Dick Couch, John Guibert, Steve Fagan, Jim Purley, and our 1967 class president for life, Dave Church. Dave, where are you? So I was given a wonderful opportunity with my appointment to this wonderful institution. But before that, my brothers and sisters, as you saw in the little video there, had 2 wonderful parents. Neither ever graduated from college, but they did insist on one thing for each and every one of us. You will get a college education, go figure out how to do it. And we did. 4 of us went to this great institution, and I'm proud to say my oldest brother Jack is a Rear Admiral in the reserves. My brother Bill was shot down up in North Vietnam, and my brother Jim served on surface ships during Vietnam. So we are very, very blessed. We were not the wealthiest family by any stretch, but we were the richest family in America. And Claudia, thanks for helping us raise 3 fantastic daughters. You saw them featured here, all 3 naval officers, the last of whom was the class of 2008 from this great institution as well. And I would be very remiss, and all my classmates know this, if I didn't thank Claudia. She worked very hard to take a rough piece of coal and shine it up, me. And she was somewhat successful. But most importantly, she raised a great family. Look, regarding my 4 years here, I got to be honest with you. I was not a model midshipman. That's the truth. In fact, I probably couldn't be classified as a model prisoner. However, in addition to terrific staff and professors here and a demanding curriculum, I know I benefited so much from what I learned here, not only from the classroom, but also from my classmates. That is a great lesson for the midshipmen today. The people you have as classmates and in this institution are such a diverse, great set of talent that if you don't learn from one another, you're crazy. That's the best education you can have here, and I really, really recommend it to you. But I got to tell you, our class had some great distinguished graduates who have had wonderful careers, but each and every one of them were young ones. They were young junior officers, just like you're going to be when you graduate from here. They served in our country in a very tough time during the Vietnam War. In fact, we just had a classmate provide some data, and as of today, based on that research, over 38 of our classmates were awarded the Purple Heart for their wounds or being killed in Vietnam. And thinking about it, my old roommate and I were both awarded the Purple Heart in Vietnam. And I can tell you that we were either the unluckiest roommates in the world or the luckiest roommates in the world. And he's here today. Dennis Lister, Marine. Now, midshipmen, I'd like to give you an example of what you might expect, what you should expect when you graduate from this institution and go and join the fleet and the Fleet Marine Force, where you will be heading. As an example, when I was a brand new lieutenant, I was issued orders to a Naval Special Warfare boat unit in Coronado. And I figured, what's wrong with this? Beautiful San Diego? I'm loving it. Great weather. I'm single. You can't beat it. Well, upon reporting, I was told to train up with a group of 11 men and deploy in 3 months back to Vietnam. And so we did. We deployed with Whiskey Platoon of SEAL Team 1 to the very southern tip of Vietnam's Mekong Delta. Our new boat detachment was made up of a chief, 5 petty officers, and 5 E2s and E3s, about half of whom had just come out of boot camp. About a month into training, I learned that one of our third-class petty officers could just barely swim. That's not good. So I got with our chief, Chief Comer, and said, Chief, you need to incentivize that young man. So sure enough, by the time our training was done, that man was able to swim 2 lengths of the pool with full combat gear and a flak jacket. So he qualified, off we went. Well, 3 months into that deployment, on one very early morning in a canal, our 24-foot boat was hit with 3 B-40 RPGs and automatic weapons fire. As you heard on the video, everyone was killed or wounded in the boat, and then 2 were killed later in the water while swimming. And later, our non-swimmer petty officer, who happens to be Petty Officer Johnny Williams, while under fire on his own initiative, swam back to the boat, climbed aboard, and manned the boat's only .50 caliber machine gun. He suppressed the enemy's fire with successive bursts through 2 boxes of ammunition. The barrel was red hot and smoking. Johnny Williams did his duty and more. He probably saved the lives of the rest of the crew, who by this time were on the bank of the canal. Our non-swimmer happened to fly back here today from Arizona to be with us and to share this honor. obviously, Petty Officer Williams is a huge part of this award, as are all our teammates. I got to tell you, though, he's still not a very good swimmer. Midshipmen, I know you too will have the honor of serving with great men and women like Johnny Williams. I'm confident you will embrace the opportunity and you will make our country and this institution proud of you. Many years from today, in the twilight of your lives, some of you will be here again, perhaps watching a classmate receive this award or perhaps even receiving it yourself. I know that when that happens, you will value much more your experience here and especially the men and women you will have served with. While others in our society may never have to listen to the Navy hymn being played on a sad occasion, they also will never know the challenges, the fun, the camaraderie, and the ultimate honor you will enjoy by serving our country. Lastly, for all my fellow alumni, including midshipmen, I want you to know that it has also been a distinct honor and pleasure for me to be able to give back over the past few years in support of this institution, our Alumni Association, and our foundation. I heartily commend it to each and every one of you. Lastly, in closing, I really mean this: beat Army.
From the class of 1971, Colonel Walter P. Havenstein.
Walter Perry Walt Havenstein was born April 24, 1949, on the yard in the Naval Academy Hospital, starting off in a place that would have a major impact on his life. Walt's parents, Paul and Catherine, had a house full of children. Walt has 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Paul, a Naval Academy graduate in the class of 44, was a big influence on his son Walt, who was excited by America's first astronauts and admired Navy's All-American quarterback. At the Academy, Walt felt right at home. It was his hometown, after all, even though the family had by then moved to nearby Bethesda. The Lucky Bag expressed admiration of Walt's dedication and commitment to all aspects of the Academy, a trait he would carry throughout his life. After a couple of tours in the fleet, Walt continued his education at the Naval Postgraduate School, where he earned a master's in electrical engineering. Active duty assignments included Development Project Officer at Unit Level Switch, a key Pentagon acquisitions program. He helped guide the program to the first tactical fiber optic cable system, enabling digital communications, ushering the Defense Department into a new age. After a 12-year active duty career, Walt joined the Marine Corps Reserve, eventually retiring in 1999 as a colonel. While in the reserves, Walt served on the Defense Advisory Board, where he helped shape a predictable call-up policy for the Guard and Reserve. This predictability led to increased levels of reservist hiring in the private sector, and the DAB policy was the first document Defense Secretary Robert Gates signed upon assuming office. Meanwhile, Walt's military and engineering background made him a sought-after executive within the defense industry. He began his career in ITT's Defense Communications Division. He went on to make major impacts at Raytheon, where he served as Vice President of Tactical Systems, and at BAE Systems, where he served as CEO and Chairman. Later, Walt took the reins at Science Application International Corporation, or SAIC, where as Director, President, and CEO, he grew the company by $2 billion in just 27 months. As CEO of SAIC, Walt engaged and supported early efforts to introduce cyber warfare into Naval Academy curriculum. A $250,000 SAIC donation was the lead gift in support of the Center for Cybersecurity Studies and served as the catalyst for the founding of the new Cyber Center. And that's just one example of his lifelong support of his alma mater. He has been an active participant and mentor in the Academy's Leadership Conference and 1C Character Capstone Seminar. He is a generous financial supporter of athletic excellence. He was a member of the Foundation Board of Directors from 2008 to 2017. He is also a Class of 71 trustee. At every step in his career, Walt Havenstein fulfilled the mission of the Naval Academy by continually demonstrating in every way the highest ideals of duty, honor, and loyalty. In 2012, Walt won recognition from the Naval Postgraduate School when the institution named him to its Hall of Fame. An active participant in public affairs throughout his life, Walt won the 2014 Republican nomination for governor of New Hampshire, securing over 55% of the vote in a 5-candidate field. Walt is married to Judy Prang Havenstein, and they have one son, Walter Jr., and 2 grandchildren. After a distinguished career filled with innovation and achievement, Walt considers his greatest accomplishment that his son still seeks his counsel. Innovative engineer, bold businessman, patriot, and mentor. Words that describe Walter Perry Havenstein, who has contributed much to the future of the Navy and to the security of our nation.
Thanks, Admiral Greenert. Admiral Carter, I don't know about you guys, but we're going to miss the Carters. I can tell you that. Midshipman O'Malley, thank you, and good luck. I know you've got, 63 days to go, all right? Hoorah. I just saw this video for the first time right now. It's all true, but it's not complete. It's not complete. Let me point out my brothers and sisters up here. They're up here in the audience. I got 5 of my 6 brothers and sisters here, and their family, and my in-laws, and my brother Paul said to me as I was coming up here, get off the stage fast before they realize they've made a mistake. He's been saying that stuff to me for almost 70 years, right? Some things never change. One of the most consistent things in my life has been my wife for 48 years. In fact, Judy and I met when we were 12. I spent a lot more time while I was at the Naval Academy thinking about my future roommate than I do my current roommates. And she's been the rock of our family. Also, my son and daughter-in-law are here, and they've allowed us to move to Texas and be near our granddaughters, and I'm grateful for that. I'm also proud that many of my colleagues from BAE Systems and SAIC and other parts of the aerospace defense industry are here. Also here are 3 members of my campaign in New Hampshire, and you're going to know right away, I'm not a politician. And in fact, Matt, if we'd had a crowd like this at any one of our town halls, we'd have won there. Now, of course, that was my responsibility, not his. But I'm grateful for their support over the years. One thing you learn here at the Naval Academy, you cannot get anything done in your life of any meaning or substance without the help of others. And frankly, I learned that plebe summer. I couldn't have gotten through plebe summer without my roommates. They reminded me of that here recently. They said, even though neither of us graduated, we stuck around long enough to make sure you would. And there's a lot of truth in that. And I'm a very proud member of the class of 1971. And I guess the biggest part of this honor for me is that my classmates nominated me. They know me. And kind of like Admiral Natter, I was not a model midshipman. They know that. I wasn't a star athlete. I wasn't a striper. I wasn't very good in academics. I graduated with a GPA of 2.22. I remember reporting into the Naval Postgraduate School, and I had to go in and see the chairman of the electrical engineering department. And he looks up at me and said, I got to tell you, Lieutenant Havenstein, this is the most humble undergraduate record I have ever seen. What are you going to do? Despite all that, my classmates nominated me. And they know me. That's about what it was. You see, they know something, frankly, that you all don't know yet. It's not how you start. It's what you do after you start. And starting for me, literally, was graduation at the Naval Academy. You know, I thought I knew what leadership was about. But frankly, I went through the 4 years here with a philosophy that better was the enemy of good enough. Good enough ain't good enough. When you get your first platoon of Marines, your first assignment in the fleet, aboard ship, aboard your boat, your first quadrant assignment, I can tell you right now, those 18 and 19-year-old sailors and Marines, good enough ain't good enough. I had to work very, very hard, as it turned out. I liked it. And if you do what you've been taught here, you're going to like it too. Nothing in my career ever came close to leading Marines. And everything I did since the time I stopped leading Marines was based upon those principles of leadership as a Marine Corps officer. I used to tell people as a CEO, I'd say, hey, look, I am just a Marine Lieutenant Platoon Commander masquerading as a businessman. And that, frankly, is exactly what I was. You will find out that you are very well prepared to face the challenges in the fleet and the Fleet Marine Force. That's what this place does. You may not recognize it, but that's what this place does. It did that for me. I didn't know it, but that's what it did for me. And in fact, frankly, that's why Admiral Natter, when he said, we come back and give back, that's why we do it. All right? So that you will be as prepared as we were to face the challenges you're going to face. Very different challenges than the challenges we faced. And that's good. That's the nature of things. But our responsibility as graduates is to come back and make sure the superintendent and the staff here have what they need to make sure you are as prepared as you can be. I'm absolutely positive you're going to be very, very successful. Remembering good enough is not good enough. Let me give you a good example. Right out the back here, we're building Hopper Hall. All right? We didn't know what cybersecurity was in 1971. Heck, we were just entering the space age. Today, if you don't know about cybersecurity, right, that new domain of warfare, you haven't got a chance. That's why the foundation and the Navy partnered to create that facility, create that capability. I'm very proud to have received this extraordinary honor. I wish my dad were here. He wouldn't quite understand it because he was the one that, when I resigned plebe year, talked me into staying. God, am I thankful. Semper Fidelis, and good luck in the fleet. Thank you.
From the class of 1973, Admiral Robert F. Willard.
Robert Frederick Bob Willard was born December 5, 1950 in Bell, California. His parents, Ed and Sharon, were deeply devoted to Bob and his siblings, Chris, Rick, Rand, and Ray. And after raising them in Southern California, the family moved east. In Massachusetts, Bob was a gifted athlete and leader, captain of the football, swimming, and track teams at East Longmeadow High School, where he earned 12 varsity letters. After high school, Bob was drawn to the Naval Academy and its mission, and so he entered the class of 1973. A year later, his younger brother Rick followed suit. At the Academy, Bob distinguished himself as one of those rare individuals who continuously displayed character, leadership, and a drive to excel. He played linebacker on the undefeated plebe football team and was a starting defensive end on the varsity. A classmate later said, "He epitomizes non sibi sed patriae, not for self, but country." After graduation, Bob began training as a naval aviator, and the following year earned his wings, was selected to fly the F-14 Tomcat, and married Donna, who would become his partner throughout their Navy career. Bob's flying career spanned 2 decades in the Tomcat before he went on to fly the F/A-18 Hornet. After serving with VF-24 in the Western Pacific aboard USS Constellation, Bob became an F-14 instructor at VF-124. Tours with VF-2 aboard Ranger and Kitty Hawk followed, before Bob's instructor skills were again called upon at the Navy Fighter Weapons School, known as Top Gun. His time there coincided with the production of the 1986 movie Top Gun, starring Tom Cruise. Bob served as an aerial coordinator for the movie and even appeared in the film as the pilot of the Soviet MiG. Following his command of the VF-51 Screaming Eagles, Bob excelled in multiple assignments. It was during his command of USS Abraham Lincoln that Bob was selected for promotion to flag rank. He then served on the Joint Staff as Deputy Director for Operations, before returning to sea to command Carrier Group 5, and later assumed command of the 7th Fleet. His diplomatic skills took him to Moscow to help craft a ballistic missile sharing agreement that was signed at the first Clinton-Putin presidential summit. Returning to the Joint Staff, Bob took on the complex task of organizing the resources for post-9/11 operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. Bob then became Vice Chief of Naval Operations, executing a broad portfolio of initiatives. Next, he commanded the U.S. Pacific Fleet, before capping a 39-year Navy career by serving as the 22nd Commander of the U.S. Pacific Command, America's largest unified command. During that tour, he led U.S. efforts to provide humanitarian relief following the 2011 Japanese earthquake and tsunami. Bob's illustrious career has been recognized with many awards, including 2 Defense Distinguished Service Medals, 3 Distinguished Service Medals, 4 Legions of Merit, decorations from Western Pacific nations, and other awards. Now, Bob continues to serve his country in the private sector as President and CEO of the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations, an organization that promotes safety excellence in the operation of commercial nuclear plants. He also serves on various international governing boards in oversight of the international nuclear industry. Bob participates in several professional organizations and provides philanthropic support to the United Way. Since he graduated in 1973, Bob has been a faithful supporter of the Naval Academy. He currently serves as a trustee for the Naval Academy Foundation's athletic and scholarship programs, has provided his insight to the Distinguished Graduate Selection Panel, and has provided financial support as a Warden Associate. Bob and Donna have been married 44 years and have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Donna is the lifetime sponsor of the Virginia-class submarine USS California. Looking back, Admiral Willard has much to be proud of during a sterling career, but he says his most meaningful accomplishment is his family, Donna, their children, and grandchildren. Admiral Robert F. Willard, a naval aviation icon whose contributions to the security of the nation and to the naval services are unparalleled.
I'd like to begin by just acknowledging these brilliant men and women that join us on the stage. Very humbling to be among them. And I recognize that I'm following a politician. So I'm in trouble. Admiral Greenert, Admiral Carter, Midshipman O'Malley, and Midshipman Phillips, thank you each for your leadership, for your role in this very special event. To our class of 1973 leaders, Dirk Moses, Tom Storch, and representing my company, Jim Hamlin, thank you for keeping our class so well connected. And to John Benjamin and the DGA Selection Committee, thank you for your hands in what is an immense honor. The Naval Academy and this extraordinary place is amazing to come back to. So much has changed in 46 years, and yet the spirit of the yard and of the midshipmen sitting here continue to endure. My family wasn't a military one, other than a couple of uncles who enlisted in the Navy when they were young. I think that picture they showed of me in a sailor suit was on a Halloween when I was a little kid. But we were a patriotic family, and when I became set on the prospect of attending a military academy, my dad and I flew to Baltimore to visit the yard in the dead of winter. And despite the lack of scenery, when I saw "Beat Army" scribbled on the side of a Poseidon missile, I was hooked. I'm so honored to have been nominated by my classmates. When you consider the sum of accomplishments by a graduating class of nearly 1,000 alumni of the Naval Academy, it's impossible to imagine that only a few of them will ever stand here. when so many of them are deserving. 73 was and is a great class to be part of. An hour ago, my wife Donna and I spent a few minutes with the classmates that could attend today, and we were both deeply honored that you've come. For 44 years, Donna has been my partner in all of this. She pinned on my wings in 1974 and walked at my side through the side boys when I retired in 2012. Over many years, the jest was that she knew the sailors in my squadrons and ships better than I did. We moved for our 30th time to Atlanta, Georgia, to assume the CEO position that I hold today. And along the way, we were blessed with 3 wonderful children, 4 incredible grandchildren. And even now, as was said, she's the lifetime sponsor of the Virginia-class submarine USS California and loves her sailors still. I count myself one of them. And lastly, I wish to acknowledge my late brother, Rick Willard, class of 74 and a rugby player. I wish he could have been here today. He was a fighter pilot in his own right, flying the F-4 Phantom from USS Midway, was a Top Gun graduate and an Air Wing landing signal officer. In the early 80s, he left the Navy to become an aerospace engineer and eventually invented technologies that controlled UAVs and low Earth orbit satellites. Rick was the epitome of what this institution represents to our nation. If my Navy experience was any example, you'll be amazed by the transformation that you're about to undergo when you're no longer a midshipman, but suddenly a Navy or Marine Corps officer with a mission. Some of that wonder comes from the jump from student to working class military, where you'll suddenly confront responsibility to and for others, sailors and Marines who will now look to you. I'll never forget the first time I stood in an aircraft hangar at then Naval Air Station Miramar in San Diego, being introduced by my division chief to 110 aircraft mechanics to whom I'd been assigned. From the looks on their faces, they were skeptical about what to think of this new guy, and I knew that to gain their trust, I had to get to know them, they had to get to know me, and until that happened, I wouldn't do my job very well. You'll be expected to lead. I think the Academy's come a long way in developing timeless leadership tenets and historic examples for you, but there's nothing quite like being confronted by a real leadership moment and the personal challenge that it represents. To either win the moment or to lose the opportunity. Compared to any other profession I can imagine, you'll be confronted by outsized responsibility, authority, and consequence. On a dark, windy night in the northern Pacific Ocean, a young Marine Corps pilot flew his F-18 into the round down of the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln when I was in the captain's chair. His landing gear collapsed and the airplane exploded, and in flames rocketed down the angled deck. Just as it was about to pitch into the sea, the pilot ejected. His chute opened at about my eye level, and after about a swing and a half, he landed on the flight deck hard. It was so windy, the chute just rolled over and began to carry him off the starboard side of the ship. I then saw 3 sailors dive onto the pilot and into the canopy before everything disappeared from view below the island structure. When I glanced to my right, my bridge watchstanders were all dead still, with big eyes, staring at their captain. That was a leadership moment, and you'll all have yours. I was fortunate to have great role models along the way. In addition to the wonderful men and women seated here, they were men like Vice Admiral Jim MacArthur, Vice Admiral Lyle Ho Chi Bien, Admiral Tom Fargo, and classmates like Eric Olson and Gary Ruffhead, Marty Chanik, and Tom Kilkline. Leaders who knew their business, knew their people, knew the risks, and were never afraid to make the call. As a final thought, it's worth becoming a student of your profession, whatever profession that is, and for however long it's yours. In whatever capacity you serve, you'll give and receive more if you become steeped in its history, its science, and its art. Your ability as a warfighter or later a business leader will be a reflection of your professional competency. I learned that at Top Gun, the Navy's School of Advanced Tactics, where every minute of every day was devoted to developing the best aviators, equipping them with skills to not only fight and win, but to teach and learn and keep on learning. You're in for the ride of your life if you approach it that way. I didn't know that I would eventually serve 39 years, but then I didn't know after I left the academy that I'd enjoy flying in command so much, that I would be so well supported by Donna and my family, and that I would be surrounded by such men and women as those with whom we serve. Thank you all very much.
From the class of 1981, Captain Wendy Lawrence.
Wendy B. Lawrence was born July 2, 1959 in Jacksonville, Florida, the daughter and granddaughter of naval aviators. She grew up in a Navy household with her father, future Admiral and Naval Academy Superintendent William Lawrence, Mother Ann, and later stepmother Diane. From the start, Wendy was captivated by space. As a 10-year-old, she watched, along with her siblings Bill and Laurie, as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon. It made a lasting impression. Wendy entered the Naval Academy class of 1981, only the second class to appoint female midshipmen. At the Academy, she excelled academically in science. In athletics, she rowed for 3 years, earning a varsity letter and helping to start the Academy's women's crew team. A natural leader, she became Deputy Brigade Commander. The Lucky Bag noted that WB is a devoted oarsman and friend to one and all. After graduating 12th in her class, Wendy earned one of 5 pilot billets available to women and quickly rose to the task, becoming a distinguished flight school graduate. She deployed to the Indian Ocean with a helicopter combat support squadron before continuing her studies at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute and MIT, where she earned a master's degree in 1988. Active duty assignments also included Officer in charge of Detachment Alpha Helicopter Anti-Submarine Squadron Light 30 and physics instructor and crew coach at the Naval Academy. In March 1992, Captain Lawrence was selected by NASA for the space program, becoming the first female Naval Academy graduate, first female naval officer, and first female helicopter pilot to fly in space. She served as a mission specialist on 4 shuttle flights, including STS-114, the first mission after the Columbia accident. Before that flight, she served as Director of Operations at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Russia, where she coordinated and implemented operations for the Joint Shuttle Space Station Mir program. After training as a backup crew member for a long-duration mission on Mir, she flew on 2 shuttle flights that docked with the Russian space station. Wendy has been a strong advocate for education, especially efforts to advance STEM education. On a local level, she served as co-chair of a campaign to approve bonds for a new high school in Ferndale, Washington. On a national level, her work at Space Camp and the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Center Complex has shown young people how exciting science and technology can be. She is a particularly strong supporter of the Naval Academy, the place where she first tested her wings. Her numerous contributions include service on the Memorial Oversight Committee and as a trustee on the Athletic and Scholarship Board. She served on the Distinguished Graduate Award Selection Panel in 2013 and 2014. Throughout her career, Wendy has been recognized for outstanding performance and achievement. She was awarded the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, NASA Spaceflight Medal, Navy Commendation Medal, Navy Achievement Medal, and the Navy League's Captain Winifred Collins Award for Inspirational Leadership. Rear Admiral Stephen S. Oswald perhaps said it best. Wendy Lawrence has been a trailblazer her entire career. Oswald, who commanded Wendy's first space shuttle mission, STS-67, praised her knowledge and expertise, and also her good-natured, thoughtful leadership that helped bond our crew into the cohesive team we became. Wendy is married to Kathy, and they live in Washington State. Looking back on an amazing career, Wendy's most meaningful accomplishment was her realization of a childhood dream to travel in space. That dream, born 50 years ago as she watched the first moonwalk, was the inspiration for her goal, a goal she achieved 25 years later when she launched on her first shuttle flight. Captain Wendy B. Lawrence, a leader by example who has always distinguished herself as she represented her nation on the sea, in the air, and among the stars.
Midshipman O'Malley, thank you very much. And Admiral Greenert, and to the selection committee, I know how difficult that job is. My thanks to you as well. Admiral Carter, I've already said this to you once before, but I'll say it again. Honestly, I don't think this could be a better day, but to have a classmate sharing the stage with you. So again, it's just the cherry on top of the icing, as they say. To my fellow awardees this afternoon, I am quite honored to be on the stage with you. I've said to a couple of you, I feel like the J.O. amongst you all. So thank you very much for letting me sit on the stage with you. To the class of 81, it means a tremendous amount to me that you all made an effort to get here. Otto, Tim, Noreen, thank you again for all your work on the nomination. You did an outstanding job. Greatly appreciated. I want to also acknowledge the Women's Special Interest Group, many of you who made an effort to be here. Again, it means a tremendous amount to me that you would help support me here today. And speaking of that, I want to acknowledge my spouse, Kathy, my brother, Bill, who I haven't found yet, my nephew, Peter, niece, Mary, and her husband, Tim, came all the way out from the West Coast to share this special day with me. Your support over the years has meant a tremendous amount, so thank you again. And I'll be honest with you, it is very surreal to be up here. Because in so many ways, I've never stopped thinking of myself as that wide-eyed 10-year-old who, like millions of people around the world, sat in front of a black and white television at home and watched Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to get out and walk on the moon for the first time. And that wide-eyed 10-year-old became a starry-eyed 10-year-old with a big dream. And it was a dream that has pushed and propelled me for decades. But I also have to be honest and tell you that I somewhat selfishly came to the Naval Academy with the hope of that dream coming true, because I knew that many astronauts had already graduated from the Naval Academy. And thanks to the tremendous education I got here, the amazing opportunities that I was afforded, I left after graduation thinking that I had a pretty good chance of making that dream come true. But the Naval Academy has had a much more profound impact on my life than just helping me achieve that dream. As you heard, I'm third generation. My maternal grandfather was class of 30, naval aviator. My dad, naval aviator, class of 1951. Even my mother lived on the yard before I did. So from my earliest memories, I have been shaped by the Naval Academy and the principles it instills in everyone who goes here. And all I've ever tried to do is live by those principles and the lessons I learned as a young officer. So recognizing that I'm last in this chain, I will very, very briefly share some of those with you. Like Admiral Carter said, as I was growing up, what I heard in my household was be your best. That was the standard. There was never pressure to be the best, but just to always give everything your best effort. That was the expectation. When I was back here as a physics instructor, and more fun for me, a crew coach, that's all I ever asked of my rowers before every race. I just encouraged them to do their best. Because when you do that, I told them, you can get out of the shell at the end of the race, and no matter the outcome, you can hold your head high. You just give it your best. My job as coach is to work with you to figure out how we can make you better. What I also grew up with was service before self. Every day I saw that emulated in the careers of my grandfather and my father. In their careers, specifically, it was service to country. But after retirement, it was also service to others, and making the time to be part of something that is much greater than yourself. I'm forever grateful to the helicopter community, particularly to some of the first commanding officers that I had, because they made sure I had a chance to do exactly what my male counterparts were doing, which was to go on deployment. And I learned a lot from those deployments. I learned a lot about what it takes to accomplish the mission. And what I observed is that everybody has a role to play. And when it comes to accomplishing the mission, really, no job is too small. What I also observed was that not every role got the same amount of visibility. Not every role was highlighted to the same degree. Think of it as an iceberg. Usually you only see the tip of an iceberg. So too was some of the roles in that mission accomplishment. But what I also observed is that when you look at an iceberg, so much of that base will never be seen. But without that base, the tip does not stay above the water. So that base has an absolutely essential, a necessary role to play. So take it from somebody who, for most of her flying career in the Navy, served in the trenches, was the base of that iceberg, was in those supporting roles. You'll get your moment, like when you're one of the pilots that gets to bring the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus to the ship. Finally, probably the most valuable lesson I learned as a JO was again in my first helicopter squadron, and that was to be part of the solution. And this is a lesson that I've really tried to implement in life, especially my time after retirement from the Navy. My COs made it clear to me that it was not enough to simply point out a problem. Anyone can do that. I couldn't come to my department head or my CO just pointing out a problem. I had to also have a possible solution. And at that point in my career, it was not likely that that solution would be chosen by my CO, because my knowledge of all the factors that go into solving a problem in the operational Navy was pretty limited, because my experience was pretty limited. But the point of that was developing the habit pattern to spend the time necessary to think of a solution, to put the hard work in that was necessary to come up with a possible solution. And in my years of life, I've also learned that the things that you work hardest for are the things that bring the greatest reward in your life. Like spending 25 years in pursuit of a dream, and getting to start that dream by riding a rocket and going up into space, and then being able to look out the window of your spacecraft back at your home planet. That's about as good as it gets. But here's also something that brings a tremendous award. As you heard, for the last 18 months of my life, I've been involved in an all-consuming effort to pass the school bond to build a new high school for my school district. We had a tremendous group of people working together diligently, day in, day out. November, we came up just short. And we didn't quit, because we hadn't solved the problem. So drawing on the lessons I learned here as a midshipman and as an officer in the Navy, we fell back a little bit, we regrouped, we sought reinforcements, we changed our tactics, and we charged the hill again, ultimately to success last month. So in a few years, when I get to see that new high school, I'm going to take a deep sense of pride in that. It will be tremendous for me to know that I have played a small role in making sure that the kids in my school district no longer have to study in an 80-year-old classroom, but they're going to have a new building, a modern classroom, that's going to increase their access to opportunities, similar to the opportunities that I got here at the United States Naval Academy. And hopefully I will help launch them. The little role I played will help launch them in their pursuit of their own dream. So for the Brigade of Midshipmen, let me leave you with this. Don't settle for what's easy. Push yourself to do what's hard. Be part of the solution and make a difference. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in a round of applause for the 2019 recipients of the United States Naval Academy Alumni Association's Distinguished Graduate Award. Ladies and gentlemen, the Navy Blue and Gold. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the United States Naval Academy and United States Naval Academy Alumni Association's 21st Distinguished Graduate Award Medal Ceremony. We ask that all guests wishing to meet with this year's Distinguished Graduate Award recipients please gather on the arena floor. Thank you.